Hi, ladies and gentlemen. It's Dr. Julio Novoa. I wanted to share this particular discussion, which includes all of the biological implant groups, but most importantly, it's associated with the Essure groups, the Felshi groups, and the surgical clip groups. So if you're in that group, I'm very, very happy if you'll share this video amongst the groups, and I'll post it to the groups that are following me related to metallic implants. Now, I get this question very, very often because patients will go see their doctors and then will be told that all of the symptoms that they're associating with their implants are just not true, that it's not associated. Now, this is whether or not it's Essure, Felshi clip, or it's going to be the gallbladder surgical clip group. Now, what I want you to understand is that when I talk about a particular subject related to a biological implant, everything that I say can be associated with any type of biological implant. Now, whether or not it's silicone for the breast implants, whether or not it's going to be the metals, the nitinol of Essure, the titanium of Felshi clips and Holka clips, or the mesh, for example, the hernia meshes, vaginal meshes, transvaginal, transurethral tape, tension-free tapes. So I want you to generalize that concept of what I'm talking about to include all of the biological implants. Now, what I'm going to present today is, I hope that this will read properly, but anyway, I'm going to provide a link. Now let me see. It says right there, biological responses to metal implants. Again, biological responses to metal implants. Now, that's an FDA document. It's 148 pages long. You can download it as a PDF file from the FDA. Here's what I wanted to stress. If your doctor says that there's no association between your biological implant, especially if it's a metallic implant, and the condition that you have, your doctor basically can't say that with any certainty that the symptoms that you have, mind you, it could be your hair falling out, it could be brain fog, it could be severe fatigue, it could be rashes, all of these different things that could be going on. None of your doctors can rule out that it's not your biological implant. Okay, now they can opine and say that they don't think so, but there's no test that can rule it out, just like basically there's very few tests that can rule it in. But because the test, there's not a specific test associated with, like, for example, nickel, for example. You can do a nickel sensitivity test, and you might be able to show some sensitivity to the particular type of nickel on your skin, but you may have a completely different response of the nickel being inside of your body, or you consuming that nickel through your diet. So the first thing I want you to do is, if you're going to have a discussion with your doctor, mind you, whether or not it be your orthopedic doctor, your OBGYN, even your primary care doctor, and especially the ER doctors, because they see it all. They see it as a frontline type of management, and they're the first one to deny anything, because they know so much about everything that they know very little about very specific things, such as this particular subject matter. But they're going to deny you at the gate. And therefore, you're going to have to go back and repeatedly go back and argue with them about what you're feeling and how you're feeling. And that's what's so important. So here's what I wanted to stress. Before a biological implant is accepted onto the market, it must get FDA approval. Okay. And before a biological implant is pulled off the market, it must have a significant amount of failure associated with it. So it's very, very little data that's required to get something on the market, and a humongous, extraordinary amount of data to get it off the market. And here's another point, is that doctors will assume as a gold standard that if it's FDA approved, then there's really nothing wrong with that implant. And yet, when you start seeing that something's wrong with it, it's like basically pulling teeth with them to get them to admit that there's something wrong. Now, there's a very, very few number of doctors that are enlightened and take the time to actually look at information and come up with a conclusion for themselves. But the majority of doctors that are talking about their opinions related to medical implants, biological implants, are basically lazy in the sense that they don't do any research. There's very few doctors that are going to take this report of 148 pages and read the entire 148 pages. I have, because you're asking me, well, where are you getting your information from, Dr. Novoa? The information that I'm getting is coming directly from the FDA. And because they're the ones that put something on the market, they're also the ones that are studying the safety and efficacy of the biological implants that they put on the market. So in this particular example, biological responses to metal implants is basically, it's 148 pages long. It's a very, very long read, and at times it can be confusing even for myself, who is a doctor. But the take-home message, and I want you to go to section 6. I'm sorry that I don't know the actual page, but I'm going to read this to you. And this is what is key related to everything when your doctor is denying your symptoms as being something that could affect your entire body. So give me a moment that I'm going to have to read something. Section 6, subclinical response to metal implants. This is from the FDA, mind you. A patient's overall response to a metal implant consists of responses both of the implant location as well as systemically. Immune cells are primarily responsible for these responses. Immunological cell responses are either innate, requiring no prior exposure, or adaptive, acquired only after an antigen is encountered. Now, I can go on and on and on related to that, but what I'm fundamentally wanting to share with you is here in this document, as in other documents from the FDA does acknowledge that biological implants, especially metallic implants, are associated with localized and chronic inflammatory responses, which can cause a spontaneous response to it or a prolonged chronic response that may not be associated with the exact location of the implant, but can be associated with systemic problems from the implant. Here's the next point. There is not a single type of metallic implant that is stable through its lifetime. Metallic implants, nitinol, titanium, chromium, tin, all of these type of implants will degrade over time, not only because they're exposed to the natural tissue and the liquid nature of tissue that surrounds those particular implants, but the immune response allows for the creation of killer cells, macrophages, neutrophils that will come and try to destroy or break down that particular implant. And over time, on a microscopic level, they are successful. But then another thing happens. As the implant is sitting there for such a long time, it will degrade, it will oxidize on its own, and ions from that particular metal are going to seep into surrounding tissue. And imagine that every single ion is a new antigen to your immune system. Every single time, every single time that metal degrades in one form, physically changes, it stimulates an immune response from your body to attack that particular implant and try to break it up into pieces and get rid of it. And most of the time it cannot do that. So that is the cause and effect that you're looking for. And any doctor that says that that's not how it works, basically doesn't know what they're talking about. Okay, that's how it works. That is what happens. So a tiny gallbladder clip attached to a blood vessel can cause an immediate foreign body reaction or one that's chronic and subclinical for months or even years before it causes symptoms enough for the patient to say, I feel something, I feel differently. Here's another point. Regardless of what your doctor says, your doctor did not get permission to put these devices in unless it specifically states that that's what they we're going to do. If your doctor put a gallbladder clip on your gallbladder and did not say, we are going to use metallic clips in order to do the cholecystectomy, then your doctor didn't get permission. If your doctor did not properly explain to you how Felshi clips work and did not say, we're going to put a Felshi clip on your fallopian tube, then your doctor didn't get permission. If your doctor put in Essure and didn't tell you what Essure was and told you it was just a tubal ligation, then your doctor didn't get permission. Okay? Without permission, you unfortunately suffered medical battery. Unfortunately, the way the system is set up, all of these doctors are protected from liability because it's the standard of care. So now we get to the point of the standard of care. I know that many of you are beating your heads against a wall saying, why won't anybody listen to me? Why can't we get anything to correct all of this? Anybody to help me get these things out of my body? What is required to happen is that you're going to have to change the law. You're going to have to force a change in the law. And Essure did have bills on the books that were going to be voted on to see whether or not it could get Essure taken off the market as a congressional bill signed into law. But before it got to that point, Bayer decided on settling these lawsuits here in the United States. But it didn't mean that it wasn't possible. It didn't mean that it shouldn't have happened. And the same thing applies to gallbladder clips, Felshi clips, Holka clips, anything that's placed in your body that is not absorbable, is considered a foreign body to your body, trying to get rid of it. And if you weren't told that they were going to put something permanent inside of your body, then you did not give informed consent, and that is a form of medical battery. So what are you supposed to do? Basically, the first thing you're going to have to do is file a complaint with the state medical board. And they're going to ignore it. They're going to ignore it because it is the standard of care. But at least you did what you were supposed to. Next, call up your congressional leaders. Call up your local representative. Call up the representatives of the hospitals that are allowing this to happen. Call them all up and say, you know what? We're going to need to have a meeting. We're going to need to have a discussion, just like all of those people that march for the things that they feel are justifiable in their lives. You're going to have to stand up for yourself. You're going to have to fight for what you think is right for the benefit of your particular situation. But my point of all of this is pretty straightforward. The information that you're looking for is already on the books. The information that you want to argue with your doctor about is already there. This report of the biological responses to metal implants is just one of a dozen or more reports from the FDA. It doesn't even include the separate ones for Essure and all of these other types of metallic devices. But the point of fact is that when a doctor tells you that there's no information that supports your particular thoughts and concerns, there is information out there. It is available through the FDA, and you can download it, and I'm going to include it as a link here. So please, if you have the time, download the PDF file that I'm going to attach to the link and start doing some reading. And again, if you're asking me as a doctor, what do we need to do? The only way that you're going to be able to change the standard of care is to get in touch with your local representatives and your congressmen, your state senators, and then that will just work its way up to the federal congressional level. But that's what it's going to take. And I don't have much more to say and how to help people in other countries, but I'm sure that they have very similar systems to what we have in the United States. And that is the key on how to get this all straightened out. But remember, you shouldn't have to fight for this. It should have never have happened. And I have to agree with you on that. But the only way that you're going to get it fixed is to start fighting now. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.